And then last week we saw that God's will is that we sanctify ourselves. What does sanctify mean? Being set apart. Are you seeing something from the beginning of the message? Are you seeing something? Okay, abstain from sexual immorality. Verse 4, possess your body in sanctification and honor. Because it's, possess your own vessel, that is our body. Verse 5, not in passions of lust. Verse 6, do not defraud your brother in this matter. Verse 7, God did not call us to uncleanness, but to holiness. Verse 9, concerning brotherly love, you have no need that I should write to you, for you yourselves are taught by God to love one another. Verse 10, superabound in love, like I already described. And then verse 11, he gives us 3 other commands. That you learn how to lead a quiet life. And I'm going to explain that a little later. You mind your own business, and that you work with your own hands. Let's turn to 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 7. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 7. For you yourselves know how you ought to follow us. There's another command, ought. For we were not disorderly among you, nor did we eat anyone's bread free of charge, but worked with labor and toil night and day, that we might not be a burden to any of you, not because we do not have authority, but to make ourselves an example of how you should follow us. For even when we were with you, we commanded you this: if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. For we hear that there are some who walk among you in disorderly manner, not working at all, but are busybodies. Now those who are such we command and exhort through our Lord Jesus Christ, that they work in quietness and eat their own bread. So in verse 8, in guide service, we have, this is usually the last word we say before we leave. And it makes a lot of sense. The word is Tenstoffel, right? And that's an acronym for is, there is no such thing as free lunch. Got it? Tenstoffel. What does verse 8 say? We didn't eat anyone's bread free of charge. We worked and labored, toiled night and day, so we weren't a burden unto you. And then in verse 9, the Apostle Paul says, not because we do not have authority. Paul had the authority to require them to feed him. And we're going to go there later in the message, why he had the authority. But he didn't want to be an example for the lazy people. He's like, oh, here comes Apostle Paul. He knows all this stuff, and now he's just hanging around eating bread of the good old ladies, right? No, he wanted to set an example because he saw they weren't, working with their own hands. And then in verse 10, I think this is one of, it goes up in the list with Ephesians 6:2 on my childhood of the most known verses for us, because it says, if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. In other words, if you don't work, you don't eat. And if you complain, you work twice. That's the revised version. So there is another command. You do not work, you have no food. And then in verse 12, he says again, we command and exhort that you work in quietness and eat your own bread. Okay, why does he keep saying working in quietness? And in 1 Thessalonians 4:11, he also said to lead a quiet life. That means, from the Greek, it means to learn how to rest. And why is that important? Let's turn to 1 Timothy chapter 4.
We want to thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you and consider you a part of our family, just as the people attending in person. We want to ask that if this message touched you in any way, that you like this video, share it with your friends and family, and then also subscribe. This way you will get notified when we come out with other videos that may help bless you and others. Thank you again for joining us, and until next time, God bless and keep looking up.